Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 11th of April, 2025. We are at day 5, I think. 7, 8, 9. Yeah, day 5. First up, I just want to say I'm mega encouraged by the, I guess, quality and just the quality and just the conversation that's taking place in LinkedIn. I posted in some stuff from Katie McCarthy, who's actually in school, but she's writing on Substack. So she's doing her 30 for 30 on Substack, which I think is really interesting because I've wanted to get into newsletters for a time, but there's just been some mental blocks in my head. So I need to, you know, take a good dose of, a cup of cement and just harden the F up and just get on with it. So, a couple of things. I just wanted to share a couple of things and then just encourage you going into the weekend. So, in some parts of the world, it'll be Thursday evening. You're coming into Friday. When it gets to my afternoon, it'll be Friday morning, etc. So, know that weekends are really, really tough. People tend to just fall off and they go and then they come to like a Monday and they write 2 posts and stuff like that. Try not to do that. Try not to do that because it just creates additional pressure for yourself and you want to make this experience enjoyable. You want to make it fun. And some of you have already said to me privately that once you get over that hurdle of like, oh, who's gonna write it, blah blah, like you just go, fuck it, who cares? And you just post. And that's what this is about. It's about consistency over a period of time so that you get the insights, you strengthen your writing, you strengthen your POV, you strengthen your messaging, you strengthen your position, your little position that you've got on the internet and saying who you are and what you're about and what you offer. So try and get to a point where you're a couple of days ahead, which kind of leads me into this. I came across a post a little while ago from Josh. He's a creator based in Mexico. He's an agency guy, and I connected with him when he was like at sub 8,000 followers. He's now got over 100,000. Yes, he's in the creator space, but he does interesting work because he does a lot of design stuff. He does a lot of advertising stuff. And one of the posts that he put up, and I'll at mention all of you guys so that you can see it. He talked about writing educational content for your ICP. And so I was riffing back and forth with Cliff Clive, and I talked about, having that in place. And so this is what that effectively is. And so yesterday when I did my post, I thought I've got to do something about how I do stuff, educational content. I was at the library the day before. I saw my son doing all these drawings. I could see he was really into it. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. Like, how do I turn this into a piece of copy? How do I turn this into a piece of content? And then the thing that occurred to me was that a lot of people do not know how to use AI effectively. They outsource the thinking rather than outsourcing the drudgery. And that there is a hook that I just said. So I turned that into a piece of code, but I wanted to make it still relevant to the way in which I post, and that's with an image. And that's why you see this image. I took photos and it got me thinking. And then as I'm using AI, I'm dumping these photos into ChatGPT saying, can you give me an alt text on this? Can you give me an alt text on this? And I thought that's content there. So that's how I did it. I put the photos into my templates. I created the prompt template, the image, put it over there. And so that's what it was. It was all, and it's about creativity. It's about, and then I fuse that into my messaging of executive thought leadership. Your clients are looking for creative thinking. They're looking for people that are going to solve a problem that they have. So all of this stuff that we're doing will come into your brain and you'll start to work out your messaging, your positioning. And coming back to encouragement that I've got is because I'm seeing the level of writing in this group, it's a lot higher. It's different. And I think that's because most of you are running your own businesses, executives in a business of some sort, or had a lot of professional experience dealing with clients. We're not talking about B2C creator stuff. We're talking about people, that are engaging in brands that are spending, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not maybe millions, on, projects, digital transformations, agency work, like the whole thing. So that's why I'm encouraged. So keep the bar up, keep writing, keep going, schedule ahead. This is what I've done. So I'm going to start scheduling ahead. And then a couple of other things. So in school, why I think, so keep writing, and I'm really, really encouraged on why this has been so great. So in school, what you'll see is that people have been posting when this loads up, and so in school, you'll see that a lot of you started posting your first few days, which was fantastic. I've posted Kathy stuff in this chat. I've encouraged her. I've sent her a message to join LinkedIn. She doesn't have to post on LinkedIn, but just to be part of the chat. Because obviously is what this is why I started these sprints to have this. So I've posted her links on Substack in here. And you know what? Her thing about posting on Substack, it's made me realize I need to harden the F up and drink a hard, cold glass of concrete and just get on with it and start writing on Substack and get my newsletter going. So you can see that a handful of people have posted, which is great. And then that inspired me. I was like, I got to do this again. So I've posted my day 1. I've got my day 2. I've got my day 3. So Laura, awesome. You're like leading the charge. And now I'm beating you because I've got day 4 in there and I'll have day 5. The reason this is important is that this then elevates obviously the chat into the school community. And then there are other people like yourselves that bought Ship 30 for 30 asynchronous digital. They're building their own little islands. They've got no support. They're, this is what this is about. And you can see that the conversations in the LinkedIn chat, it helps. I don't spend a huge amount of time in school, but it does 2 things. A, elevates the conversation so people that have bought the course can come in, they can join, that we can be part of the sprint group. And then secondly, you're going to get eyes on your content. You're going to get optics on your content from people that you normally would not have access to, but they're interested in writing. So that's what this does. Second thing is that I keep talking about quality. And the reason that quality is really, really important is that when you keep the quality high, you can constantly repurpose the content. And that's going to be one of my posts coming up. It'll be carousel. One of the things that I have been working on for quite some time is, let's save that. So one of the things that I've been looking at is on the back end of my content, what I typically have is I do this, I guess, briefing document. And, for those that have been in advertising, briefing documents are very important because it says, the briefing document comes in from the client to the agency and they say, this is what we want. And then the agency will then do a reverse brief and they'll go, great, is this what you wanted? We just want to confirm. And then they go and start developing the campaign, whatever that looks like. So I've been doing that for a little while only because I had a client come through and they asked me, well, I developed this because I thought I want to elevate what I'm doing. So I did that. And so here's my back office. This is what stuff looks like here. And I've got this briefing document here. Here's where it gets interesting. If you elevate your quality, yes, it's hard at the beginning, but if you elevate your quality, the content that you create here can be repurposed across multiple platforms, multiple solutions, etc. So I have a website, I have a landing page, and it is bad. This is a card website. I had all these assets, I had these images, and I knew that I had to repurpose them so that there's some additional value that I'm creating. And when I first started, I had executive ghostwriting across here. And what I've realized through, again, my little group that I've got is that if I talk about executive ghostwriting, what I'm actually doing is I'm selling the widget. I'm selling the service. And I don't want to position myself as the supplier to the widgets. What I want to be doing is I want to position myself as a strategic advisor that is going to help position executives and their go-to-market teams around their content, around their thought leadership, around like what is it that they want to do with their insight? How do they want to elevate that and then, stimulate their network to then, drive conversations and then effectively drive growth with pipeline, etc., that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, the content around that we're going to create is going to be a reusable set of assets. So there's potentially infinite ROI on that, opposed to traditional agency where they'll do a campaign and it stops and none of the stuff gets used again. The other thing is that when you work with me, you're going to get stuff developed very, very quickly and you're going to be able to test that and you're going to be able to iterate very quickly. Whereas a traditional agency won't be able to do that because they've got the brief, they've got their people, and they're not going to keep chopping and changing. So that's the difference with my offering versus their offering. And so I've started to slowly change my landing page. And you can see these are all X posts. If you click on one of these, it will actually go to that particular post. And then that increases impression count. They see it, they're looking at it. They might then go and lurk on my profile. And then I can see that they've actually looked at me. Great, wonderful. However, this website, where is it? If I go back, this doesn't really say a lot about why you should work with me, what problem you have. Like, I'm not articulating that higher level business challenge that people actually have. And I've been thinking about this for quite some time, but all things take time to develop. And you can see this is loading pretty slowly because of the images. So I've got this test site here and I'm building this out as well. And one of the things, and you can see now I've started to brand a little bit differently. I've got some messaging which is more consistent with what I'm developing. I've got some images here, they sort of color up, etc. And then I'm talking now about the type of content, the type of thought leadership that I'm reading. So the 95/5 rule, what is that? It's that 5% of the market are actively looking, the other 95% are not looking. Why is this important? Because any go-to-market leader, any growth leader, anybody in marketing, business, sales, revenue, they know that sales cycles are long in B2B and agency. So you've got to be marketing to the 95. I'm educating them here. These images will change, which will be relevant to the 95. I just need to have some placeholders in here. I then talk about double jeopardy, which is, again, this is a marketing thing. And remember, I'm not a marketer, I'm a sales and go-to-market person, but I'm starting to understand the foundations and the tenets of marketing. So this here will be about double jeopardy. What is double jeopardy? Double jeopardy is basically the concept that large brands basically suck up a lot of mental availability because they're present in the marketplace, and smaller brands suffer, and so they're perceived as risk. And even if they've got a loyal portfolio of customers, those customers still see that as risk. And yet smaller brands will try and market and get more value out of this existing customer base through, increasing loyalty and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, because of the larger brands just ubiquitous, that it ends up being that they'll eventually go and buy, so the smaller brands need to grow. They need to grow and they need to target, get more customers, which then goes back up to the 95/5. And then lastly, micro thought leadership. So how do you do that? You do that through the writing. You do that through getting your content out through your networking. That's how you do it. And then sales is a whole nother thing below that, and business development. So this is where all of this comes in. I haven't developed any of these bits here. They're just placeholders. By the way, I have no idea how to build websites or anything like that. I've just been watching YouTube tutorials on Card, and I'll put a link into the guide that I'm following and learning how to do this. So let's just wrap this all up around quality and consistency and just doing more of what you're doing. So I told you that a little while ago I was doing content for a client, and then I started doing these little sort of briefing documents on the back, once I've actually produced the asset. What I want to use this because I think this is cool. I like this. And this basically is an insight into what and why and how I actually came up with this concept. I want this to be on the back of this. So if you hover over it, I want this to flip and you'll see this and you get to read it. And then if you click the document, if you click on that asset, on that element, it will then actually take you to the page. Why am I doing this? Because I know that lurkers want to have a nice experience, and that's something that I would like. I want to understand, well, how did that come about? What is that about? And then eventually, if I click it, it's going to take me to the website and you can actually see it. This has been a journey. This has been something that I've been thinking about for some time, but I've not been able to articulate in what that looks like and what that CX experience and what that functionality of pushing, touching, all that sort of stuff looks like, without having to have a high level of quality in my content. And if I couldn't produce this, then there's no way that any of these concepts could then be developed. So just to wrap up, really, really encourage that everybody is writing, keep posting on school, keep the quality up, post a couple of days ahead so that you've got some time to think. And then as far as ideation and what you want to write, I will say this. This is where I'm at in my journey. Read broadly, but also read deeply in areas that you find that are relevant to you. So even though that you've got expertise and experience and you want to write about that and how you're going to grow your business, read other people that are 3, 4, 5 years, 10, 15, 20 years thought leaders. So I'm reading up on Byron Sharp. I'm reading up on there are marketing people. I'm reading Blair Enns. I'm reading David C. Baker. I'm reading, what else am I reading? I'm studying Chris Doe's stuff. There are people that are significant. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to a podcast called 𝗚𝗏. It's all about business models and growth and stuff like that. Read stuff that is relevant to your industry segment, your niche. But having said that, don't read, and I say this with an asterisk, don't read the garbage that everybody else is reading. Because if you do that, you are going to look and feel and sound like everybody else. And that's not why we're doing what we're doing. We're doing this to stand out. We're doing this to build a business. We're building our business to actually offer a value proposition to our customers. And that requires work. And that also requires thinking. And that requires putting good food into your head so that you can then go and develop the value proposition that you want to. And that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I'm doing through practicing through these videos. And very, 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 very last two things. Keen to get a call happening in the next couple of days. I know it's kind of last minute, but keen to get a call in the next couple of days. DM me directly if you want to participate. We can just sort of riff on what that will look like. Secondly, for those that actually want to do some videos and send videos like this, you can do it. Go and sign up for Teller or Loom or whatever, and just share some insights, share some stuff that you've learned, because that helps the group. And then as far as feedback is concerned, if there's something that you don't like or you think could have been done better on a post, you should share that as well. Do that on your own stuff. And then if you've got some criticism, give it one-to-one and other people, but share obviously what's good. That's what I do. I never share any of the bad stuff to anyone one-to-one sort of openly. I always do it in a group. I do it one-to-one, and then just see if they take the advice. And it may work, it may not work, and I've seen it with a couple of people. I would love to get some feedback on my stuff from you guys. So yeah, that's it. Have a wonderful day. Keep writing, keep sprinting, keep shipping. God bless.